Just give me one moment.
We're soon going to have food for the spirit.
Okay, we're in business. Perfect. So just again, some housekeeping notes. Happy Hanukkah to everybody. Hope you had a wonderful Hanukkah and are enjoying that. Hope that you're staying safe and staying well as well. Last night we had a great Hanukkah program for those who joined with us. It really was a good time. The pizza was delicious. The company was great, and it was just fun to do something different. And I hope that you all enjoyed that. I want to talk today about this week's Parsha, not so surprising. And in particular, I want us to ask some basic questions, probably the most fundamental questions that we could even think about asking on our Parsha. So let's get started here. I'm going to share with you my screen. See if that works. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So our Parsha begins with Pharaoh's dreams. Now, I didn't list all of Pharaoh's dreams simply because they're lengthy, but we know their dreams, right? He dreams about cows and about stalks and fat cows, skinny cows, and so on and so forth. And he dreams these dreams, and the Torah tells us that he takes those dreams and he takes them to his chartumim, he takes them to his magicians, the people who he turns to for advice, wise counsel, and they are unable to interpret his dreams. And they don't know, and they can't figure it out. And so what happens is, the Torah tells us that eventually the butler who was saved and his dream was interpreted by Yosef. His dream brought him back out of the depths of the dungeons and right back to the side of Pharaoh's, on Pharaoh's side. And the butler says, I know this guy. I know you don't, Pharaoh. I know you're having a hard time with your dreams, but I know a guy who might be able to help you. He's a dream interpreter. He happens to be in your dungeons. What do you think about getting him? And that's exactly what they do. They go, they bring him out of jail. They clothe him nicely. He's described very clearly and very obviously as a Hebrew slave. That's what he is. And he comes and he stands in front of Pharaoh. And take a look what happens when he does that. Let's look here in box number 1. So he comes and he interprets the dreams of Pharaoh. It is just as I've told you, Pharaoh. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he's about to do. Look, there are there'll be 7 years of great abundance for Egypt. There'll be 7 years of famine after them. And the land will be ravaged with famine. There'll be no trace of the abundance from those 7 previous years because of the severe famine. And after that, because it'll be so significant. And by the way, Pharaoh, the reason why you have dreamt 2 different dreams is because it is determined that God is going to make it happen, and that God is going to make it happen soon. Accordingly, Pharaoh, what you need to do now is you need to find a man, some person who is very wise and discerning, and set him over the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh should take steps to anoint such a person, that he should oversee the land and organize the land of Egypt in the 7 years of plenty. He's giving him all these directions, and he should gather all the food, etc., right? In verse 36, right? The food will be reserved, so this way that Egypt will have enough food. And what happens in verse 37? The plan pleased Pharaoh and all of his servants. Could we find another person like him, i.e. Yosef, in whom the Spirit of God is with him? There is no one who's as smart as you, Pharaoh says. You are the smart person that we should choose. You should be in charge of my court. Nothing will be higher than you except for the actual chair throne, so to speak, of Pharaoh. And that's exactly what happens. He's put in charge of all of Egypt. Now, let's just take a step back here. And is anybody bothered or surprised in any which way about this story? Who does Yosef think he is to come and offer advice to Pharaoh? Did Pharaoh ask him for advice at any point? Did Pharaoh say, hey, give me some advice? I'm curious to know what you would suggest.
Well, he was showing the chutzpah that he showed to his brothers, and in the same way he did it to Pharaoh. He still thinks he's the man.
So you're saying that he thinks of himself as a know-it-all. So again, it's so amazing. Can you imagine? It's like, if only you can find a man who is so smart, who is so capable, that had a certain type of wisdom. I don't know where you'll find such a man, King Pharaoh, right? Like it sounds a little bit conniving. Like by the way, it sounds like his father Yaakov a little bit, if we're being honest. But what's interesting is that he does it. If I was Pharaoh and some slave was giving me advice, I would say, listen, slave boy, I didn't ask for your advice. I just asked you to interpret the dreams. I'm Pharaoh. I know everything. I'm like a god. I know what to do with this information. So that's problem number one is who is Yosef to even suggest such a thing? And I think the second problem we have to ask ourselves is, why is Yosef's interpretation agreeable to Pharaoh and every servant, whereas the interpretations that the magicians, the Khartoumim, the advisors was not? What was it about Yosef's interpretation that spoke so much or so well to what Pharaoh was thinking? How come in verse 37, Vayitav hadavar b'nei Paro v'nei avadav? Why was it accepted? Why was it something that they were happy to hear? That makes sense. We like that.
Well, maybe the original interpreters that couldn't do it well were not presenting any kind of solution at all. They were simply interpreting or trying to interpret. In other words, it's the solution that may have been very interesting to Pharaoh.
It could be. That's certainly possible. We'll explore that a little bit. But more than that, I would ask the question of, this is not a complicated dream, right? Like seven cows.
It seems obvious to you and I.
Right now,
granted, it's hard, like, dream interpretation.
We know exactly. We know the answer, so it's hard for us to be like intellectually honest. But if you ask Joe Schmo, who never heard this story, to come up with an interpretation of what 7 cows eating 7 cows means, and fat cows and skinny cows, they're going to know what it is. This is not rocket science. So what is it that Yosef is doing that is proving to be so important? So what I want to do to answer that question is actually to go in a very different direction. I want to spend a few moments talking about this time period in particular, this month, this time, the holiday of Hanukkah a little bit, and see if we could indirectly come back to this story to maybe shed some more light on what's going on here. So let's take a look here at something called the Sefer Seerah. So the Sefer Seerah says as follows. So this is a quote of Bnei Saschar. So in the Sefer Seerah is like the oldest book of Kabbalah that was perhaps ever written. Some attributed to Avram Avinu himself that was written. And in the Sefer Seerah, it explains all types of things. Every month of the year has certain attributes. It has a certain letter that's attached to it, certain actions, certain body parts. And it's very, again, I'm not pretending to be someone who understands this stuff, but I want to show this to you for a moment. So B'Sefer Yetzirah, Himlich Ot Samech, the letter for the month of Kislev, is the letter Samech, and B'Shena, and it talks, and the action is Shena. The Kasharlo Keter V'Tzarfon Zebezev V'Tzarbem Keshet Ba'olam, and it has to do with a bow. The Kislev Bashana, and this month is Kislev, is what we call it. The Keva B'Neshvesh Zachar Nekeva, and the body part is the stomach. So without trying to get too far to understand what the connection is between Kislev, the stomach, bow and arrow, and the letter Samech, and sleeping, I want to actually just focus on 2 of them, just 2 specific aspects. What is the connection between sleep and Kislev. The month of Kislev and sleep. What do you think? What's the connection?
Kislev, is that a winter month?
Well, we're in the month of Kislev now, so yes, it's a winter month.
Yeah, so that would be a kind of a hibernation type of thing. Meaning,
good. So like when we look outside, right? It's a sleepy time, right? We feel sleepy. We have long nights. Think about like, you leave work at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. It's dark outside already, right? It's depressing. I remember I used to be in high school. I was in school until 6:33 every single night before we had dinner, and then we had evening learning. But like at 6:33, it is pitch black outside, and you're still in your secular studies. It was miserable, right? So it's a dark time. It's a sleepy time. What's interesting is that sleep in rabbinic literature actually has very negative connotations. Take a look at this Breshit Rabbah, for instance. So Breshit Rabbah explains.
Yeah.
Related to death.
Well, hold that thought. Look at Breshit Rabbah. Amar Rav Hoshaya. Rav Hoshaya says as follows: B'shah shebara HaKadosh Baruch Hu Adam Harishon. When man was created by God, Ta'u Malchei Hashar Uvikshu Lomar Lefanav Kadosh. The angels erred and thought to say Kadosh. They thought to worship man. So what does that mean? They thought to worship man. What does that mean? They thought that man was perfect in every way, that he was like a god. And so what does God do? It's amazing. The Medrash says, Ma'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu, He pil alav tardema. God causes man to sleep. V'yadu hakol shehu adam. God causes man to sleep, and once he sleeps, angels realize that he can get tired, and he can literally sleep. Sorry, what was that?
No, I see it exactly what you're saying.
Right. So
that they gave up. They don't have control all the time. Like an angel is always on, and they have their purpose, and they're never sleeping. But a man has to sleep.
So in other words, when God wants to remind us that we're human, we get tired. Right? Think about it for a second. The only thing a person does when they're sleeping is breathing. That's all we do when we sleep. We're just breathing. In a sense, it's like a flashback to the moment when God literally blows life into dirt. By Pach B'Afav Nishmat Chaim, that God literally blows life into a bunch of dirt that he's holding in his hands, metaphorically, and creates man, right? So when we're sleeping, it's almost like God is reminding us of our mortality, right? That we're nothing, that we're frail human beings, right? So when we feel strong, so we feel invincible. So God created this thing called getting tired and exhausted. You need to go to sleep, and you need to go to sleep to remind you that you're not that powerful. And that's what the angels thought, that man was like a god. They wanted to say kadosh, but only then did they realize differently. And the truth is that there are other connotations where we see throughout Chazal where sleeping is not considered necessary to be a good thing. So Chamisha Achad Mishishim. The Gemara in Brachos teaches us that there are 5 things that are considered to be 1/60th of their most extreme manifestations. And what are they? Eluhain. Eish, fire, Devash, honey, Shabbat, Sabbath, Shena, sleeping, and Chalom. Eish, Echad, Meshishim, Legehenam. The fire that we experience today is 1/60th of the fire of hell. So you want to know how hot it's going to be in hell? It's 60 times hotter than we know here. Devash, honey, for example, right? So honey is considered 1/60th. Meshishim Laman. It's 1/60th of the manna, because the manna is described as being like honey. Shabbat, Achad Meshishim Le'olam Haba. We love Shabbat. Who doesn't love Shabbat? Shabbat is considered 1/60th of Olam Haba. We love the rest, the spirituality, the sense of community, connection to Hashem. It's the most wonderful part of the week, Shabbat. You think that's good? 60 times better than that is Olam Haba. It's Me'ein Olam Haba, Shabbat. And then here comes the big one, Shena, sleeping, which is, again, the action for the month of Kislev. Echad Meshishim Lamita. Sleep is like 1/60th of death. Think about that for a second. 1/60th of death. In other words, the rabbis are telling us that sleeping is not a trait that we are happy to talk about, right? It's something that is quite negative, right? In fact, this is just a side point. I once read a book about how the most successful presidents slept like 4 hours a night or something. There's like a statistic, like people who are very successful do very little sleeping. I don't remember what that is, but we see that sleeping represents this frailty, this weakness, and it's almost like a sense of death in Chazal. So is that really what this month is about? Is the month of Kislev that we're in right now, is it really just about death and being in depression and darkness? Is that what it's about? And so we have to think that there has to be something positive about it. So for example, let me give you another example.
I think one thing that might be positive about it, Rabbi, is that it keeps us humble. In other words, we realize that we are not God. We may have God-like powers, but
sleep.
we certainly.
Absolutely, yeah. Sleep it can be a reminder of our frail existence, which can be humbling. That's true. Let me give another example. For instance, so in the month of Nisan, the action in the month of Nisan is speech. So we know that speech could obviously be a bad thing, right? In what way? Is that it could be talking about, you can use your speech for speaking about Lashon Hara or other things like that. But the speech that we're talking about is actually good speech. It's the speaking at the Seder, at Pesach, right? So in the month of Nisan, when Passover takes place, it's a time of talking, but good talking. So we're meant to use our speech in a holy way. So what is the holy way that we're meant to use sleeping? So take a look back at this Gemara again. I purposely left the last pieces off of this Gemara. So it says what is dreaming? So chalom echad meshishim lenavua. A dream is 1/60th of prophecy. So on the one hand, when we go to sleep, it's a surrender to God who controls the world. It's all about our frail existence, and it's very humbling. But when we sleep, we have the ability to dream. And when we dream, we can transcend time and space. We can have certain powers that we can never have in the real world. We can be in places that we've never been before, right? Think about, you have a dream. You could be like, you could have superhero powers. You could be traveling across the globe. You could be anyone in a dream, right? And the Gemara is telling us here that a dream is literally a taste of nevuah. In fact, most prophets, stands like the Avos and Moshe, most of the prophets, the Nevi'im, how did they get prophecy? It came in dreams. That's exactly how they got prophecy. Yaakov Avinu, when he first speaks to God, what happens in Parshat Vayetze? He puts his head down on a rock, he goes to sleep, and sleep is not a negative thing in that context. It's actually a positive thing. He sleeps, he has a dream where he sees a ladder and angels going up and down the ladder. And in fact, in Shir HaShirim, we see in box number 5, look at in 5th chapter, Pasuk Bet, Ani yeshena v'libi er. I was asleep, but my heart was awake. In other words, we see here the power of the fact, even if we're asleep, Shena actually could be a very positive thing. The month of Kislev isn't the month not just of sleep, but it's actually the month of dreams and the power of dreams. And the truth is, there are very, very deep connections between the month of Kislev and this notion of dreams. What number month is Kislev? If Nisan is the first month, what month number is Kislev?
5?
No, more than that. It's month number 9. Month number 9, right? If Tishrei is 6, right? So it's month number 9. So what's the significance of the number 9? So look here in Shemot, and this is some cool stuff. Now it's a little out of my own comfort zone, but I want to show you some really neat stuff here. So in Shemot, in Tetzavet, when we talk about the Choshen that is worn by the Kohanim, so it is filled with 4 rows of stones. Take a look at what the 9th stone is. So Hatur Hashini, the 2nd row, Nofach Sapir V'Yahalom. Okay, so that's the 2nd row. So the 3rd row. So again, so this is the Yahalom here, pearl or amethyst or whatever it's called. This would be number 6. The 3rd row, Hatur Hashlishi, Loshem Shivo V'Ach Lama. The third row, jacinth and agate and crystal. Ach lama in the Hebrew, right here. Ach lama. So then what is the ninth stone on the Choshen referred to as? Ach lama. What is ach lama? What is the stone? What's the significance of the stone? It's a purple stone. But most importantly, it has the word chalom, which means dream, as the root of the word. And the Radak in the Sefer HaShorashim explains what is this. What was the significance of the stone? He said that if you wore the stone on your finger, then you can always see dreams, which is where the name of the stone comes from. It was like a dreaming stone. So the ninth month, corresponding to the ninth stone, has this like special power. Let me give another example about the connection between this month and Kislev, for example. How many times in the Torah do people dream? And the Torah, I mean, again, the 5 books of Moshe. How many dreams are there in the entire Torah? I'll give you a hint. Some of them are in our Parsha. Two of them in our Parsha. There are a total of 10 dreams. 10 dreams. What are those 10 dreams? So the first dream is Elimelech has a dream in Gerar after he takes, when he takes the wife, right? So Elimelech has a dream, right? And he's told, stay away from his wife. Okay, that's number 1. Then we have Parshat Vayetze, where we have Yaakov has a dream. We just talked about that. That's number 2. We see that Yosef has 2 dreams, correct? We see that the butler and baker have 2 dreams. We see Pharaoh has 2 dreams, right? All of the dreams that are taking place, except for Elimelech's dream in Gerar, they all take place in the month of Kislev. All other 9 dreams take place in this month. In other words, the Kriya, the Torah reading that we read during the month of Kislev, is actually an interesting phenomenon, which is normally Mikeitz, which is this coming week's Parsha, is almost always the Parsha that we read on Hanukkah. It's very rare. This is like, it happens once every however many years. It's very rare, where it was last week, Parshat Vayeshev. It could happen. This year, Parshat Mikeitz is not Shabbos Hanukkah, and that's because, again, very rare that Hanukkah starts on a Thursday night. It happens once every, 70 years or something crazy like that. So the point, though, is that Vayeshev, Mikeitz, Vayetze, they're all these dream stories are all taking place during the month of Kislev. The Kriya itself is Me'orer the Zman, right? It awakens and connects us back to what's happening in this month. There's a famous story. The Baal Tanya said that a person needs to live in the times. What does it mean to live in the times? So the Rebbe's brother said that it means that we read the Parsha every single week with Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum, and we know there's 7 aliyahs, and if you break up the Parsha so that into 7, so on Monday you're reading the 2nd aliyah, on Tuesday the 3rd aliyah, and so on and so forth, and you read it with Rashi. So what does it mean that it's supposed to live in the times? That the things that we're reading, that Torah reading that for that day that we read, is supposed to give us insight to what's going on in our life at the time. This is a month, a time for dreaming. That's what Kislev is all about. And who is the greatest dreamer of all, by the way? Who dreams more than anybody else? Yosef. The Torah calls him Baal HaChalomot. The brothers, when they see him coming, Hinei ze Baal HaChalomot ba. He's, look who's coming. It's this, the dreamer is coming. Yosef believes in his dream. And in fact, Yaakov, the Torah tells us, Shamar Tadavar, he hears the dreams. He's not happy that Yosef is dreaming, but he holds on to it. The brothers, on the other hand, they see the dreams not as being dreams. They see the dreams as being like shena, as being sleep, as a negative thing. They don't see it as being a chalom, a positive thing. Do you know what the gematria is of Yosefatsarik? The alphanumeric value of Yosefatsarik? Anyone want to take a guess what the number is? It's not 613.
9.
365. Yosefatsarik, 365. Do you know what else shares the same alphanumeric value of the word Yosefatsarik? The word shena, sleeping, which teaches us that sleep doesn't just mean sleep. Sleep is the possibility for dreaming, and Yosef, we know, is deeply connected to this month, deeply connected to the month of Kislev, which is all about. So how do we view dreams nowadays? What do, like, when we have dreams?
Rabbi,
what does it mean to
can
us?
I interrupt for 1 second?
Please.
You said 365. The lunar month is only 354 days, I thought.
No, so the gematria of Yosefatsarik is 365, which is the same as the word shena. So in other words, there's a connection between the word shena, meaning sleep, and Yosefatsarik. The 365 is not referring to the number of days in a year as much as it's just is that it's the same number as the word shena.
Okay.
Isn't
gotcha.
it also the same number as the negative commandments?
Yeah, but that's neither. Again, the total number is not relevant. I'm just showing you something cute that ties us together. My point I'm trying to bring from a few different ways is that this month of Kislev is about dreaming. It's about Yosef, who is the dreamer of dreams. Like, he is Mr. Dreams. He's interpreting dreams. He's the dreams, right? So how do we make sense of dreams now? If I have a dream last night, what do I make sense of it? So the Novominsker Rabbi Zatzal, he says that unfortunately our dreams today don't carry as much weight because our minds are simply overexposed to so many images and ideas, right? So for instance, the best example I can give of this is, like, if you ever go to Times Square, it's like, I mean, the colors, the lights, the signs, I mean, like, it's enough to give you like a headache. But
sensory overload.
Everybody agrees at the core that a dream is something that's very, very holy, right? It's a very holy thing. Our dreams might not carry as much weight today because simply we are overexposed. And so when we dream, we think about the images and ideas that we saw during the day. But if we were living more peaceful, quiet, meditative states, then our dreams would actually be very, very holy. And in fact, we see this idea in the Hanukkah candles itself. Take a look at this. So the Kav HaYashar writes in Parshat Tzav that when it comes to the candles themselves, so we know how to light the candles, right? The Hanukkah candles. And we know that that we're supposed to show them off to the outside, right? That they convey light to everybody else. But more than that, the Kav HaYashar tells us that if we know how to light them well and we pay attention, we'll experience prophecy, right? The candles, when we light them, are meant to give us prophecy about the future. Prophecy is, again, 60 times a dream, right? There's a connection there. The candles themselves are deeply, deeply prophetic. And there's this amazing piece from Rav Kook here in box number 9. He writes in incredibly difficult language. So I'm not going to read it inside, but I wanted just you to have it and to see it. But he writes about dreams in general. And in this piece, he explains that great dreams are the foundation of the world. And when we think about dreams, dreams are not just something that happens when we sleep. We dream when we're awake. We can dream of impossible things and we can make them happen. For instance, when we have dreams, like the impossible can come true. Like, for instance, I don't know, a tiny band of soldiers who pull out a huge military victory, or how maybe a small amount of oil can last a long time. When you have dreams, you can make something impossible come true. And the great dreams throughout history, Rav Kook teaches, are literally the foundation of the world. We're all part of the dream called Gullus, that we want to receive the restoring of the Beis HaMikdash. And sometimes, very sadly, our hopes and our dreams, they can become extinguished, right? We can lose the ability to dream because life can be so tough, right? Or life just like sucks the energy right out of our dreams that we can't dream anymore, right? But Rav Kook says that what happens sometimes is when we start to have unholy dreams, if you want. We have unholy aspirations, right? We maybe contemplate things that are crude, or contemplate and think and dream about things that are unethical. And when a person has those dreams, Rav Kook says, it's still a good thing, because it still teaches you that at least you believe in the possibility that things can be different. We are hayinu kecholmim. We are like dreamers. That's what we say. Hanukkah gives us that opportunity. That's what this entire month is about. It's about the spirit of dreaming, of believing in the impossible that it can become possible. And not just sleeping and having dreams, but living those dreams. There's an amazing story that I heard in the name of the Nesivos Shalom. So a chassid came to him one day and he said as follows. He said, I'm a person with many dreams and many aspirations, but I'm very worried that when I pass, all my hopes and dreams will have come up with nothing. And on my tombstone, what are they going to write? Here lies a person who wanted to do lots of great things, but didn't end up doing anything, right? I have all these great ideas and great dreams, but I'm never going to be able to accomplish anything. And so he said, I'm so worried, there's so much anxiety that they're going to write on my tombstone that I did nothing with my life. And then Nesivos Shalom says something amazing to this man. He says, you need to keep on dreaming. That's what it's all about, right? If I saw a matzeva, if I saw a tombstone like that, of a man who dreamt and dreamt and dreamt and never accomplished anything, but he still kept on dreaming, I would go and pray there because it's a makom kadosh. It's a holy place. It is a small thing to be a person of great hopes and aspirations. That's what Kislev is all about. That to say that miracles, Hanukkah miracles can happen, that light can overcome darkness. And we don't need lots of lights, by the way. When we light our Hanukkah candles, what do? We put them right in our window, these tiny little candles, and they don't burn bright. They don't get a lot of attention. Right? Think about what the rest of the world does around this time of year. They put enormous lights all over their houses, and they burn them so bright. We don't need that. We just need a little bit of hope, a little bit of an ability to dream for something better, that there could be something better or something seemingly impossible. So let's go back to our story for a minute. What was it that the angel, that the Khartoumim told Pharaoh that didn't work? Let's take a look at this. What was their suggestion that made it so that Pharaoh did not want to listen to them? Look in Breshit Rabbah. Rabbi Yeshua of Sachnin taught in the name of Rabbi Levi. The Khartoumim, the magicians, offered interpretations, but Pharaoh could not accept them. What were some of their interpretations? They suggested that the 7 good cows symbolized 7 daughters that would be born to him, while the 7 lean cows represented 7 daughters that he would bury. The 7 good stalks represented 7 capitals that he would conquer, while the 7 blasted stalks represented 7 capitals that would rebel against him. Let's take a second to process that. When the Khartoumim are interpreting Pharaoh's dreams, are they giving him any hope for the future? Are they giving him any positivity? All they're telling him from his dreams is negative things, right? You're going to have 7 daughters, beautiful daughters, but they're going to die, right? You're going to conquer 7 provinces, but then you're going to have 7 people rebel against you. The very fact that Yosef doesn't just interpret the dreams, but makes a suggestion and a solution to what to do with them, he gives them hope. Pharaoh had given up all hope. He knew that this was not a good thing. But the fact that Yosef gives them hope, Yosef, the Baal HaChalamot, the man of dreams and aspirations, he gives them a way forward, is what makes Pharaoh and everybody else in the entire kingdom, not just Pharaoh, Vayitav hadavar b'nei Paro v'nei kol avadav. The plan pleased Pharaoh and everyone, all his servants. Everybody loved it. When we talk about Hanukkah, Hanukkah also comes from the root of the word chinuch, which talks about education, about children. Children dream big. They have crazy aspirations, right? When I grow up, I want to be a football player. I want to be an astronaut. And when we get older, we stop dreaming big. We stop being so optimistic, so aspirational. We give that part up about ourselves. What we learn from Yosef in our Parshat, what we learn from the month of Kislev, what we learn from these last 2 days of Hanukkah that are coming up, is to never stop dreaming, to make that a part of our lives, to be hayinu kecholmim, to always be dreamers, like Rav Kook says, and that will make us holy and connect us to God for a very long time. So we'll stop right here. I wish everybody a happy Hanukkah. I look forward to seeing everybody soon.
Rabbi, have a healthy rest of the year with you and the family. Have a good time.
Thank you. We'll see you all.